Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 78 of the Hardly Millennial podcast, where we are young, dumb, and full of...
We're full of opinions, man.
Opinions, guys. We are full of opinions. As always, your two favorite hosts with you. My name is Adam.
Well, I hope we're your favorite. I'm Matthew Lynn.
we fucking better be, you know. And welcome. So, right off the bat, I'll tell you guys, I'm tired. I am. It's just one of those days. I'm groggy. I'm tired.
You're tired? You sound a little tired, bro.
I do sound a little tired. I feel a little tired.
It's funny that you're a little tired because it's not that I'm tired today, but I'm cranky because I don't have any coffee.
I know. I'm so sorry, man.
The thing is, I just don't have convenient access to coffee. I could go buy coffee.
Yeah.
But I can't make it. I don't have cream.
Oh.
So it's a hard life.
This is the Adam and Matthew you are all getting today. All two of you.
All two of us today. Something you've never gotten before.
So without further ado, let's just fucking
let's
do it.
this.
One thing I wanted to mention, just because I think we talked about it a little bit in person, but I don't think we ever talked about it on the podcast. And that is that Joe Biden announced that he was running for president.
Oh, yeah. Uncle Joe. He's going to run. I don't know a lot about him.
I don't either.
He was the vice for Obama, right?
Yeah.
And that's about as much as I know about him.
Yeah.
He's got a little touchy-feely with a few folk.
Yeah, that's definitely the controversy
Apparently he's a
right
smidgen
now.
inappropriate in some social environments.
I think it's kind of funny that he decided to announce that he was running amidst this controversy against him, with him being like,
he's like, well, my name's out there.
People.
Fuck it. Let's just run for president.
Yeah, and what was, I think you were the one telling me the other day that his campaign already has like millions and millions of dollars.
Got like, I don't know if it was 16 or 60 or something. It was some crazy amount of millions of dollars in like 24 hours that got donated to it.
So I think it's safe to say it's going to be Biden and Trump.
Well, there's an outcry for Bernie again. All the youngsters are shooting for the Bernie.
Did Bernie announce that he was that something he announced he was doing? I can't remember. Did he announce he was going to run?
I don't know for sure, but it sure seems that he's going to be running in the primary.
I'm actually curious if he is. I just don't know how I feel about that, though.
I saw an article that there was a group of people. It made it sound like all millennials are doing this, but it's not. It's a group of people who went and got the Bernie Sanders logo 2020 tattooed on their face.
Really?
Yeah, they tattooed it on their face to show like support.
I remember.
I don't know if it's true. I didn't read the article, but I saw it.
I remember seeing there was like a slew of pictures that revolved around the internet soon after the 2016 elections of people who had these like Hillary Clinton tattoos, but like saying like Hillary 2016 or like our new president, something like that, like implying that she was already the president. And then like obviously she did not get elected, and I was just like, you poor sad saps. Like,
yeah, you have to change it to something else.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if I would go that far.
But I think Bernie's running for at least for the Democrat. He's trying to get that spot.
That's what I'm seeing.
So that would mean he'd be going against Biden at first,
to
try to get picked, and then whoever wins that would go against Trump.
Because
Trump definitely got picked. He's obviously
the
what do they call that, the incumbent, the one who is fighting to keep the position. I think that's that might be the person who's trying to take the position. I'm not sure.
But he is definitely. I just pulled up an article here, and he is definitely running.
Bernie is.
He's 77 years old, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's fine. He's ornery. He's okay. He'll live.
That's so funny because I think Trump's only like a couple years younger than him, but Bernie just looks like he's so much older.
I think they might be. I think Trump might be 77 also.
They might be the same age.
Oh, Google that real quick. Get your phone in your hand.
Yeah, touche.
I want to say Trump is 77, but he might be a little younger. Yeah,
Let's
might be a little.
see here.
Shooting a little high on that.
Trump age 72.
72. Okay, a
72.
little younger.
Yeah, a little younger. Not by
Hey,
much,
every year
though.
matters when you get to 70.
Yes.
You know?
Or maybe it doesn't matter as much. When you just hit 70 and you're like, all right, well, I'm 70 plus now.
It's like saying like there's a big difference between 100 degrees outside and 110 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Right? We know that living in the desert.
Yeah.
Well, there's a big difference between 72 and 77
Yeah.
in age. You know what I mean? It's like that. Like they're a close number, but there's a big difference.
Yeah, that's true. You're very right. No, it's going to be an interesting race.
You know, I was into Bernie Sanders in what was it, 16?
I was too.
Did he run? Was that when he ran?
Yeah,
16, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
I was into him.
I liked him too. So
was
did
feeling it.
Justin. Actually.
At first,
Yeah.
I liked the idea of getting a lot of stuff for free. I was down
course,
with
as
that.
a lot
That
of
sounded
people were.
wonderful. But then, upon further research,
Yeah.
it comes to find out that it's not actually free. Someone ends up paying for it.
Yes, of course.
And at that point, I had to cool off the burn a little bit because I was like, "Oh, it's not a magical land of free money."
Well,
Okay.
what first drew me to Bernie Sanders when he started running in 2016 was it was literally one interview I saw with him that like drew me to him, and that was because he wasn't using the terms like democratic socialists at this time or even socialism in general at this time, but all he was talking about was he goes, "Hey, let's look at all these countries who are number one in these different things and just copy what they're doing." And the examples you just happened to be using a lot were different policies and things in different, not totally socialist nations, but
There's a lot
more
of European
socialist than
ones.
we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of Scandinavian ones.
Yeah.
So like he was referring to like Finland, who's number one in education, and saying, oh, we should do like what they're doing. And I was really into that idea. I was like, yeah,
A lot of those countries are the highest happiness in the world too.
yeah, funny how that works, huh? But those are the things that drew me to him because I was like, yeah, we already have these systems that other people have figured out that work, and at least those like, what's the word I'm looking for? And those categories.
Right.
So let's, copy those. But then, and I was pretty on board with him throughout the campaign, but then there were just things that were like, okay, like we need to rethink this. Like one of the first things he did that really bothered me was he was giving a speech somewhere, and there were people who were protesting that. I think it was Black Lives Matter at the time.
Yeah, I think that was chic at the time.
Yeah, and he just let these like three women like basically overtake his podium to talk about Black Lives Matter, and he basically just stepped aside and let them. And I'm like,
A little weird.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, like I would like a president to be a little bit more like, well, this is my platform right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give you some time after I'm done, but not just like, oh, well, they're up here already. There you go, ladies.
Well, maybe he needed a break. He was probably tired.
Well, there's another reason why he probably shouldn't be the president.
I mean, whoever's going to run against Daddy T, they're going to need to be on their A game.
Yeah.
That's for sure. He's going to try to eat him alive.
I mean, I guess if anybody at this point who's currently in this race has a chance of doing it, it's Joe Biden. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's certainly not going to fucking do it.
I agree that she probably wouldn't beat Donald Trump. Not that she wouldn't be a better leader, but I don't think that she has the name to beat Trump.
Right.
I think the Democrats already threw out the best name they had.
Yeah.
They already did Clinton. And, I mean, she won. She won by 4 million votes. That's a
Popular vote,
shit
sure.
ton. And she still lost. So, if Clinton can't beat Trump, the name Clinton can't, then I don't know of many other better known names. You know what I mean? Like on average, if you go out on the streets of any city and ask people, do you know the name Joe Biden? Do you know the name Elizabeth Warren? Do you know the name Hillary Clinton? I would venture to believe that most people would say they knew the name Hillary Clinton, right? That'd probably be the highest percent.
Probably, yeah.
So, I mean, platforms definitely are part of winning a presidency, right? That's what it's supposed to be about. But
Right.
popularity is what ultimately has you win or lose, right?
Well, true, but I mean, when you start running for president, and in this case, if what I think is going to happen, and I really do think it is, where Joe Biden's going to be, the main Democratic guy to run against Trump,
Right.
Like, well, I mean, people are going to learn about him real quick, and I think people hate Trump enough to where like Biden would be the best chance because he does have a big name associated with him, and that's Obama. And the thing with Obama, as far as popularity goes, nobody knew who the fuck Obama was before he started running for president. Nobody knew who he was.
Before he ran, no.
And that's my point. But he still ran, and he still became super popular, and now is one of the most popular presidents, probably within the last 50 years.
Yeah, but his actual presidency, the things that he enacted and the choices he made were not incredibly popular during his presidency. True. I remember his presidency. He got a lot of slack, or a lot of, flack very often. It was a constant struggle, his presidency.
But there was also a great percentage of people who loved Obama, no matter what he did, too. So I think you're going to see a lot of that.
I think you have the same thing with Trump, too, though.
Yeah.
Trump is very, from what I've seen, just the little bit that I get out, it's very one side or the other. Mm-hmm. Either his supporters love him and he can do no wrong, virtually no wrong, or people just hate him purely off principle.
Yeah.
And just will never be a follower of him no matter what he does.
Yeah.
So I would think, I hate to get super political, but I guess we're going for it here. I would think that the Democrats in the next election are going to get a good amount of votes just right off the bat. Just people who vote against Trump no matter who is running against him, right? There's going to be those. The Republicans are going to get a handful of people who are going to vote for Trump no matter who goes against him.
Right.
And it's going to be up to, hopefully, those are both very small percentages. Those two parties are very small, and everyone in the middle makes up the difference.
Right.
Is hopefully what will happen, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, as of right now, if the election was tomorrow, I would think that Trump would win.
Yeah.
Against any of these names.
I
would have really liked to see, who was it, Schultz? The Starbucks guy run for presidency.
Oh, yeah, I know you're talking
Mark
about.
Schultz?
Howard Schultz? Like that, yeah.
I don't know. The original CEO of Starbucks.
Yeah.
Every time there's an election, it always there's always a little bit of anticipation, like, will he run? He's never really expressed a lot of interest in running. But
well, it's funny because that was the same thing with Trump for years. There's always like, oh, maybe.
Dude, if you look back, though, there's some documentaries. Well, there's a lot of documentaries about Trump nowadays. Yeah. But there's some that you can find even on just YouTube. I don't know about Netflix, but on YouTube there's some. And it just shows different interviews with Trump as when he was younger, up until all through his career.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, it might just be picking out details over time. You could find anything you look hard enough for. Mm-hmm. But it certainly can be construed in a way that it shows he was planning to run for presidency since he was a very young man.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I gather from those different kind of interviews and stuff that you're talking about is... And it's super ironic because it seems like there was a time when people wanted him to run. People were seeing what he was doing to New York because he cleaned up a lot of New York, regardless of how he did it. The fact is he did it, and that's what people noticed at the time. And because I remember there was a particular interview I saw of him that was super ironic to me because he was on Oprah.
Okay.
And Oprah asked him so you plan on running for president? And the crowd, Oprah's crowd, just just going crazy,
right?
And he's just sitting there smirking, waiting for everyone to be quiet, and and he said no, I don't have any plans to do that, but he did say in an interview, he goes, but if I ran, he goes, I would probably run Republican, and I can't remember what the reason he gave, but it was basically an insult to Republicans, because Republicans are stupid or some shit like that.
When he finally came the day that he ran, up until the last minute, Adam, do you remember? He damn near ran as an independent.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even care about running for the Republicans. And they didn't want him at first.
No.
Until they saw him kicking ass in the primaries.
Yep.
So yeah, He's a weird creature, man. He holds true to the things that he says.
Yeah.
It's just you don't always agree with the things that he says.
He's one of those. He's like. I was trying to think of the term, but there's a name for characters like this in a movie. Like there are characters that stay the same the entire time, and everything happens around them.
Yeah,
like that's like the Big Lebowski. That's what that's kind of is.
Like a mafia don.
Yeah,
he's always very controlled, and not to equate him to a mafia don.
No,
that's probably a bad.
But just
thing
in
to
the
say.
sense
But
of just as
in
you
the sense
said,
of the
like,
character and the composure,
like
and,
everything has remained the same, and just people's opinion about him just keep drastically changing.
They're all just different opinions and different situations, but he uses the same techniques on all of them.
Yeah, and he keeps
The
winning.
dude's super consistent, man. I don't always agree with him, but he is super consistent.
Yeah, I mean, he's going. There was somebody I listened to, some journalist I listened to an interview once, and he goes, "It's so funny with Trump because he's going to go down in history as the most hated president who ended up doing the most during his presidency." You know, just because that's something we always run into. And I think that's why a lot of people voted for him, is because we have a lot of presidents in the past, Obama, Bush, all the Bushes. They're all under the category of, I'm going to do this when I'm president. I'm going to do this. And then they end up doing one or two of those things in 8 years.
Right.
And how much has Trump done? And
who do you
3?
think is the most beloved president from like our lifetime?
From our lifetime?
Like in the last like 20 or 30 years.
Probably Clinton. Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton, right?
I mean, I was too young to remember him, but he was president when I was younger.
I was born almost the day that he was inaugurated.
Oh, really?
Almost. I was very within days of it. So the beginning of his presidency was the beginning of my life. Mm-hmm. So obviously I don't remember it. Mm-hmm. But you hear a lot of great stories about the days of Clinton.
Yeah.
I do hear a lot of shit talking too. A lot of people who didn't like things that he did, and more of his personal character. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about his presidency, it's regarded as being pretty positive for the whole country.
That is true. I definitely have heard people talk. I mean, even my own parents who are pretty conservative, and they've even said, "Yeah, the economy was great." Like, he definitely did fix the economy. That is for sure.
It's always character flaws that you hear about with him. They're always upset about, like, his personality.
And it's kind of funny, too, when you equate how we responded to certain incidences that happened during Clinton's presidency and then how we've responded to, like, Trump's presidency. Because Clinton, it was just an accusation that he was getting blowjobs underneath, the table in the Oval Office, and it turned into this big thing. And all of a sudden, people just wanted him impeached, And then Trump,
he got brought to trial.
What? Right,
he was found innocent.
But regardless, though, it still went to that point where he got impeached. To where Trump, there's all these things that have come out of like, oh, he's done this, and he said grab her by the pussy, and he said this and everything, and it's just like, all right, well, there you go, we're good, we're already used to this now.
Well, he didn't grab any pussies while he was president.
That's true.
So it's not an issue. It would have been an issue during election time, and he said, yeah, I did it, and people still voted for him anyway. Yeah. So the issue's gone there. The pussy thing doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. If he grabs someone's genitalia while he's the president, then that would be a whole different issue that now we would have to address.
Yes.
The whole issue with Bill Clinton was that it's not that he got a blowjob in college. He got a blowjob while he was the president.
While he was the president.
That's what the problem was. So, but everyone nowadays, all the Trump supporters always say, you gotta listen to the words and not the wording, right? Yeah. You gotta don't judge his character, judge his actions.
Yeah.
Well, do the same thing for Bill Clinton then.
Yeah.
Judge his actions. The economy was great at the time. It led to a huge, almost 15-year-long war after him, but during him, it was great.
Yeah.
So judge the actions, not the words, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's, I guess, just what it comes down to. I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens. We will definitely see what happens. So, not to like
politics.
So, not to drastically change gears here, but I'm going to drastically change gears here.
Okay, let's do it.
And it was this article that I was reading, and it was really interesting. And it was posted by, it's about space. So it was posted in like the science section of the news here. And it goes, The title is Universe is Younger and Expanding Faster Than Thought, New Study Finds. And I was reading through it, and I'll read some little quotes here, but I'll paraphrase most of it. And we basically found out that the universe is expanding 9% faster than we originally thought could have originated during the time of the Big Bang.
Right.
And at face value, it's like, okay, well, it was already going astronomically fast, so it's going a little faster. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, because of how fast it's going now, we've been basing everything we think we know about the beginning of the universe off of the current speed that we thought the universe was expanding.
Because speed has to do with time.
Yes. So now that we know it's going 9% faster, there are people who are going, like one person said, either one, we're making mistakes we can't find yet, or two, nature has something we can't find yet. So there are literally scientists, Nobel Peace Prize winners, who are coming out and being like if we figure this out, it might change quite a few things that we know about physics and put it on its head.
So when there's a bomb blast, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm just trying to piece this through in my head because I'm thinking of the Big Bang like a bomb blast, right? So when a bomb explodes, the shock wave, is it at max energy when it comes out of the explosion? Like the very beginning of that shock wave, is that max energy? Or is it like a rubber band? Does it go more, and I'm spreading my hands out as I do this. Does it go like more, and then start to cool off and go less, and then rebound back? Like, so my whole point is that maybe the initial explosion is still going off. Like, we're that young still.
Well, that's definitely what they think is happening. And
that's why it's still speeding up. Like, it's not going to speed up forever. Eventually, it will slow down, and then in theory, it would start to retract. It would start to come back on itself. In theory, if it is like a rubber band,
right?
You know.
I'm not sure in regards to like what they think the nature of the actual explosion is. I know information in regards to like how they think the Big Bang happened, and that was just, basically all matter and mass to one point, and then I believe they said in a millionth of a petosecond, like the universe exploded. So it took less than a second to explode. And
right, but in that millionth of a pentosecond, is it in that moment, is it going as fast as it'll ever go, or will it still gain a little speed for the next so many billion years and then start to slow down? Like, I think when a bomb goes off, it takes a few nanoseconds, or it takes a little bit of time for the wave to gain the speed.
Right.
I think.
I think it's different in space as compared to like a bomb down here. Now, if a bomb went off in space, I think it would behave the same way as like this Big Bang is, because I think the reason why that happens down here on Earth when a bomb goes off is because you have friction that's holding things back or holding things together. Whereas space, it's just nothingness. It's a vacuum, so there's nothing to stop it. There's nothing to like.
Can a bomb go off in space? I don't think a bomb can go off in space.
A bomb can go off in space, for
sure.
It's
in a vacuum.
It's in a vacuum. It wouldn't look the same as like down here.
Explode.
But there would still be. There would be, but it would just be like. It'd be almost like very quick, and then all you'd see is almost kind of like a small supernova-esque looking things. You'd see kind of the colors of the gases if you're able to shine light on it. But
so what if you were in outer space floating in a spacesuit, and 1 foot away from you, a grenade exploded. And there's no shrapnel in the grenade. We're just assuming that it's just a shockwave grenade. Will it fuck you up the same way it will on Earth?
Maybe not. Maybe not the same way.
I don't think you would feel anything.
But no, you would. You would definitely feel the shockwave. The shockwave would fuck you up.
You still get the shockwave.
The shockwave would fuck you up.
So it can move through the dark matter, whatever that is.
Oh, yes.
It still acts as a medium. It still acts as something for the shockwave to go through.
Yeah, I believe so.
Really? So when stars explode, do they cause earthquakes on planets?
It's not that they don't cause earthquakes on planets, but they do cause well kind of. You can look at like flares from supernovas and stuff is kind of like the shock wave. So like
Well, I mean, that would be like the light and the radiation. So that's different
Yeah.
wavelengths of light that move.
right, but that would be kind of like what it equates to.
We know, well, sound waves move in space. We know that because you can talk from a spacecraft to the planet.
Yes.
So you can use radio waves in space. Google it.
I
Is that what
am.
you're doing right now? Because now
I
I'm
have
really
to.
fascinated
Yeah,
because
I'm
we probably
curious
sound
myself.
like fucking morons right now.
There are probably people the past 5 minutes who are like, just fucking look it up.
I'm wondering. I gotta imagine that it would still do something, but it can't be the same thing.
I feel like all you get is the shock wave. Let's see. This is the first thing that pops up at the top page of Google. It goes, in the vacuum of space, the lack of air means the principal destructive effects come not from the blast, but instead from the particles and radiation pouring out of the bomb, which dump their energy as heat on the striking target. So yeah, like the flares are kind of like the equivalent.
So there
like the
isn't
shock wave.
There isn't the actual wave. Nothing would tear you apart, but the pieces, the fragments of the grenade, what actually made the bomb, that would tear into pieces, and those pieces would start to move towards you at whatever speed is equal to the energy that was put out from the blast.
Yes, and
so that the shrapnel could fuck you up.
yeah, and then somebody had also asked the question specifically, what happens if a nuclear bomb goes off in space?
A lot of radiation, I bet.
They go, if a nuclear weapon is exploded in a vacuum, i.e. in space, the complexion of weapon effects changes drastically. First, in the absence of an atmosphere, blast disappears completely. So you're right on
So
that
there's
front.
no
And then,
boom part.
second, thermal radiation, as usually defined, also disappears.
Oh, interesting.
So then what happens? Just nothing happens then? I feel like something has to happen. I mean, you're splitting an atom. Let's see.
Oh, I think there would still be radiation put out.
Yeah,
And
but
you would still have the shrapnel moving very quickly.
yes.
But the actual blast gets sucked into the vacuum of space.
Yeah, it would
gets
just be
sucked
like
into it.
nothing.
So
right?
there's another thing where there's a certain size blast you can make on Earth, and then it won't destroy any more stuff. You can make a bigger bomb, but you can't get a bigger blast.
Right.
Because it literally leaves the atmosphere and it gets sucked out into space. So a bigger bomb will just get sucked out. It won't make any... There's a limit.
Right.
So I imagine that suction, if it's totally in space, it just does nothing.
Yeah.
So you just have the light, the radiation, and the shrapnel.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
There'd be no sound. You wouldn't hear anything
I'm
with
reading
your ears.
I'm reading this part of this peer review about the subjects.
Maybe you would.
What?
If a bomb went off next to you in space, would you hear it? If you could live in the vacuum and have your ears exposed, would your ears pick up the blast? No.
I think maybe for a second. I feel like maybe you'd hear like, oh, maybe not. Maybe it'd be too small. Because I remember we picked up the noise of black holes colliding, and it just sounded like a water
that's
bottle.
because it's like
but that's what I mean, though, with how.
unfathomably enormous.
But that's what I mean. Even though it was unfathomably enormous, the noise was literally like.
it was nothing.
That's what it sounded like. But so I
Because
think
you could be right next to someone and scream on the top of your lungs, and in theory, they would not
and
hear
they would not
any
hear
of it.
you at all. So you probably wouldn't hear it at all. Honestly, then it's probably too small.
Wow. So the atmosphere is what gives all the power to bombs, dude.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It's oxygen. That's what oxygen burns. That's what it is, man.
I mean, this is all pretty simple science, but it's blowing my mind. I never really stopped to
well,
think of this stuff.
well, just as you said, I never stopped to think about, if a bomb goes off in space.
So you could not hold a bomb and explode it.
No,
But assuming you had a shield that could block the shrapnel,
Uh-huh.
a bomb could be a foot away from you in space, and it won't tear you apart.
I don't know. That shrapnel's going pretty fast. You better have
Assume
Captain
that
America's fucking shield.
But the actual blast wouldn't tear your limbs off.
But
or
yeah,
anything
no,
like that.
death would not be from the blast. Death would be from radiation or whatever.
You'd probably be
light
blind
spews
from
out.
all the light.
Blind, yeah.
Interesting. That is very, very cool to my brain.
It looks like radiation in space will actually. It'll be stronger at first, and then it disappears. So like
it dissipates much quicker.
It dissipates much quicker, but you'll get like a big whiff of it, like at first.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's weird. That's interesting. I never thought about that, but yeah, But anyways, in regards to the universe expanding, because of just those things we just discussed right there, and with how fast the universe, we now know the universe is expanding, they think it's just gonna change a whole bunch of shit, which is exciting because that means that if we figure out what it is that we're missing, then we're going to discover a lot of new shit also.
You know what's interesting is that nature, and like even apart from our planet, but like reality never has a glitch. Like if you're expanding this quickly, this fast, you're expanding faster than the speed of light because there is an observable universe.
Right.
So that means at a certain point, it's going away from you faster than the light's coming towards you. So you can't physically see it anymore. So that means we're expanding faster than the speed of light.
Right.
And if there truly is just white, just blank, there is no information on the other side of the wall of reality, right? And this dark matter is coming into existence, and that is information being created, and that's propelling the edge further, right? That's what we think is going on.
Yeah.
That's a fucking metric shit ton of information that's being created every second in every different direction that you can possibly fathom.
Right.
All of that information is coming into existence. And none of it glitches out. None of it gets fucked up. There's not a warp anywhere. There's not a square planet anywhere. There's not a...
Well...
Really?
I wouldn't... Because I think you're looking at it in terms of like... It's expanding out and everything, but everything that's already in the universe is in the universe. We're just all spreading very far apart from each other. But because we're in such early stages, everything, on an astronomical scale is still relatively close to each other. So we're able to observe everything. One thing that I did learn...
But all the space that's going to be in the universe is not already in the universe.
Right, but I look at it in like, for example, if I'm opening a Photoshop project, right? And I have a white background here, and I want to make all of it green. So I start with a little green box at the corner, and I drag it down to cover the entire thing. If I drag it down to cover the entire thing, Photoshop just goes, okay, this is green now. But now if I'm adding stuff and putting pictures and editing pictures on top of this green thing, sometimes it needs a moment to render. Sometimes it can glitch out if there's too much in there. In the case of space in the universe, you look at it as like the expanding of the space just being a green box just being pulled out. It's not enough information to glitch the system, and no new information is being put into that green box. It's just expanding out. Everything.
No, but new information is being put in. The space is information.
Right, but just how the green box wasn't enough information to glitch out Photoshop, just constantly adding space isn't enough information to glitch out reality
either. So...
Well, it is math, though, and that's how computers run, is off of algorithms and stuff to make the programs and software work. So, I mean, it still works in kind of the same way. I just don't think it's on an astronomical scale. Again, it's not enough information to be added at once to make it glitch out, as you say, because all the information that's going to be in the universe is already here.
Wow. Wow.
And remember, we have black holes that delete information, too.
Well, they don't delete it. They just make it unaccessible ever again.
Yeah.
If physics would break down if information was truly deleted.
Well, physics breaks down in black holes.
I know, it's true. It's true. Well, if black holes truly were deleting information, taking it out of this space-time continuum, out of our reality, then there would have to be a system that is creating information at the same time. Right. Otherwise, our existence would be finite.
Well, there are those who believe our existence is finite, as far as we know.
There's no evidence
currently.
To that. The evidence so far proves that it's getting larger, not smaller.
Right. Well, we know the space is getting larger, not the information that's being added into the space. Everything that we know that so we know that trillions and trillions and trillions of years from now, like everything's moving away from everything. Right. So everything's is not going to be non-existent. It's just going to be so far away from us that we're not even going to be able to observe it anymore. It's still going to be in space. The universe is still going to hold the amount of information it already has in there.
Right.
It's just going to be too far to access.
Oh, wow.
And then at that point, well, as far as we know, the universe just forever expands, and now at a faster rate than we could ever have thought.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
I'm just compressing all this information into my brain right now. So here's one for you that I just thought of. So they say that gravity, right, is the way to picture it would be like to have a carpet, and then if you took like a bowling ball and put it on the carpet, it would make like a dent in the carpet, right? And that's kind of like what's going on, except it's not a flat plain carpet. It's a carpet that goes out in every direction all at once.
Right.
Because there's no up and down in space.
Right.
Okay. So as the universe, as reality is expanding faster and faster, which we can pretty much prove that it's doing.
Right.
Okay. That means you're making the carpet bigger.
Yes.
It's more and more carpet to deal with. So here on Earth, if you have a bowling ball on a carpet and it's making an indent, and then you make the carpet bigger, it makes a larger indent, right? The bowling ball sags more because now you have more surface area. It's pulling, but the bowling ball weighs the same.
Right.
Okay. So do you think that happens to space? Do you think that gravity is affected as reality gets larger?
I think that's what you see in black holes. So so remember we were talking a little bit the last time about how black holes do that, seeping down to an infinite level,
Yeah,
right?
they're like drains.
Well, I think the reason why they seep down to an infinite level is because it's constantly pulling, and it can constantly keep pulling because the universe keeps expanding. So if you had a sheet and you put a bowling ball in there and you didn't make the sheet any bigger, well, eventually the bowling ball is going to take the sheet with it.
If you make the bowling ball heavier and you don't give it more sheet, it's going to rip through the sheet eventually.
Exactly. But if you have this metaphysical sheet that can just keep adding on space,
and this
to
bowling
itself,
ball is sucking the
it's
sheet
just going
in,
to keep sucking down and down and down.
The bowling
and down
ball will
and
get
down.
bigger and bigger and bigger and keep going further down.
And that's why black holes can
But
exist.
it never rips through.
It never rips through.
Because you're adding more sheet to it.
And I would argue that the second, if
Dude, we should be
universe,
astrophysicists. Holy shit.
Let's do it. Fuck the podcast.
That's insane.
Yeah, dude. So I would argue that if there was ever a point where the universe did stop expanding, then the black holes would rip it.
Or the black holes would be the force that have it start to contract back on itself.
True.
Because if we think of them as not ripping through but eating the sheet, like they're actually eating the sheet, right?
Right.
So if the sheet's getting bigger, it's fine. Then you keep the same amount and you're eating it and you're expanding it, right? But if you stop expanding and you keep eating the sheet from the middle,
right,
now you're going to start to pull back in on itself.
Yep.
Until eventually there's
all
no sheet left. The last little piece goes in, and then your theory is that it all explodes back out into a sheet again.
That's the Big Bang. Yeah. And just constantly working it out. And that's also,
I can picture it in my head now.
And that's also the principle of a fourth dimensional sphere. Is a donut. It's something that's constantly collapsing in on
It looks
itself.
like the infinity sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting.
We should be astrophysicists.
At least philosophers.
At least philosophers. Watch, that's what's going to happen. 4 years down the line, we're going to be dressing all in wind linens and...
Don't tell them about the wind linens yet, Adam.
Sorry. That's for later, guys.
Dude, that is some crazy shit, though. And really, at least the way we were able to explain it, we probably didn't explain it very well.
Probably
but it
not.
was simple enough that, like, I think even a kid can understand that.
Well, that's
it's simple enough that I think a system could work that way.
Well, that's definitely how it's been explained in the past, and we've seen this with, I've seen different, like, astronomy teachers and stuff use this same kind of thing where they'll take a giant, a sheet much bigger than like what we're like imagining,
right?
And they'll do that. They'll put like a cue ball at the very middle of it, and then they'll take marbles, and you'll see the marbles start to like slowly go around it,
right.
And that's when they're trying to show like, oh, it's tugging. So, well, all we know is that black holes are also tugging. They're just tugging so fucking fast and hard that everything gets sucked up into it. Well, like I said, his sheet would break at one point, but not if the sheet just kept growing. The black hole's always going to have something to pull on. But
especially if the sheet is growing faster and faster every day.
Exactly.
It would almost have to. Mm-hmm. It's like it's not an accident. It's like it's doing that for a reason.
And that's why I want to look in more, and I've been like racking my brain over this past few days, because when I watched that video that was like, hey, 30 minutes of like what the future of the universe is going to be like.
Yeah, that video really affected you. You talked about it a lot.
Oh god, I just found
really
out
hit your
some
psyche,
new
dude.
information about it. But like one of the things they said in there was they said eventually the black holes will basically dissipate and fizzle out, but based off of, now again, I have a very, very, very basic knowledge into anything astrophysics wise,
Right.
but based off of like what we're talking about, if you have something that's constantly tugging and tugging with the expansion of the universe, I don't understand how that just fizzles out, how it's just like, all right, we're done, here you go.
Well, it would have to be after a point where all the matter is gone, when all the matter's been sucked up. Mm-hmm. Because as long as you're adding matter to the black hole, you're giving it more energy.
Right.
But black holes also do these things like burps, where they burp out energy when they have too much. So if you have the black hole expelling energy over time and not taking any more in, then that system would diminish itself after a while into nothing. And all it has to do is slow down enough to not be a black hole anymore.
Right.
And then the entire system breaks down into separate parts.
But if you have something that's like tugging on, like, you know, the fabric of the universe, is it just like it just comes back up slowly and that tug just gets less and less and less and less until that
I would imagine so, yeah. Because it's not actually a drain that we know. Our theory is that there is a little tiny grain of sand in the middle, and that tiny grain of sand literally weighs as much as entire galaxies weigh if you put all the planets together.
Yeah.
And all of those, that weight that you couldn't even fathom, is in the size of one grain of sand.
Right.
So it's like a sand-sized galaxy floating around. And that has so much gravity in one spot that it pulls even light in.
Right.
But it doesn't, as far as our theories go that I've always heard, we don't think that it actually drains away into something. Like there is a middle of a black hole.
Right.
In theory.
Yeah.
So concept being, if you could slow that down enough, you stop feeding things into it, it's burping out energy, radiation, whatever. Over the course of trillions or however many years, it slows down enough that all it has to do is go one little teeny tiny millimeter less than the speed of light, and all the light would escape it. And then once that escapes it, you've let out more energy. So now the system goes even slower. And I mean, you're never going to take the mass away from it, so you're never going to get rid of that much gravity. Right. But if you could slow the system down, you could at least get rid of the light, which would give up a lot of energy.
That's true.
I could see it. I don't know. It would be really hard, obviously, to give an answer without going into a black hole and figuring it out.
I mean, like I said, this was that's why this is something I definitely have been like recently been like, okay, I have to like look into this of how the fuck this happens, because if that's true and at one point they, you know, dissipate, well, my theory and any physicist theory out there about the, you know, us living in a black hole essentially is, you know, null and void at that point, you know, because if the black holes just dissipate, well, it
would just mean that existence is finite.
Yeah.
Not just life, but existence, reality. Everything that we know and have ever known and will know is finite. It doesn't go on forever.
Right.
Whereas I think that the systems we try to come up with in general, we like to try to have a system where we totally accept that we'll be gone, and maybe planets will be gone, and even light will be gone. Everything will be fucking gone, but there's still an existence going on.
Well, I think it just comes from our inability to even be able to, you know, fathom what not existing is.
What would be the point of even making a system and figuring it out if it leads to non-existence in the end? That would not even personal non-existence, but reality non-existence.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's the age-old question that scientists are trying to figure out: is just does it end, you know, or does it repeat, or you know? whatever it might
So
be.
I almost said mathematically everything ends, but that's totally wrong because there is a mathematical infinity
Yeah.
where that's a thing.
There's a few, actually.
There's a real thing. There's imaginary numbers. There's negative numbers. There's
Pi.
everything you can think of.
Yeah.
So mathematically, there's no reason why existence couldn't go on forever.
And I think that's why almost the general consensus is that existence has to go on forever, is because of those examples that we have, you know. Now, we do have simple math equations where they're obviously finite. You know, there's a single question, a single answer. But we also have, you know, the more complex math questions, you know, or in math equations like pi, or there's another one that ends in like it's like 3 but like, you know, pi is one of those, like, it's never ending. There's a computer, I think it's like in Florida or something, that constantly, like every 10 minutes it pumps out the new number in the pi sequence.
Oh yeah.
And and as you said, we know that that's never ending, you know. But and I would argue that the universe and existence in general is a one giant big math equation algorithm that we can't even, you know, fathom, you know, that has both, you know, physical and metaphysical properties to it, and I can't see that just being finite.
Math is at least a force in nature. It has to be.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely a way to explain it.
There's no reason why our same mathematics that work here on Earth wouldn't work on space. I mean, on Mars, 2 + 2 is still 4.
Yeah.
There's nothing that changes the reality of 2 things plus 2 things is now 4 things.
Right.
Now, I'm sure that there is, how would you say it? Like philosophies, like theoretical ways to think that you could show.
Right.
Because I've watched videos on Vsauce and stuff of you can literally make $1, $2.
Yeah.
But it's not the concept that you're thinking. You don't have $2 bills.
No.
But writing it on paper, you are completely correct saying that now you have $2.
But I think those are the metaphysical concepts that are beyond our understanding right now, that, just as you said, 'cause I watched an interesting movie at one point also that was, and I'm going to completely botch this quote, but it was called Lucy with Scarlett Johansson. It was basically she took this pill that was like constantly making her unlock different parts of her brain until she basically reached.
Was it acid?
It looked like acid in some of the scenes.
Well,
but
the name of the movie's Lucy. I just wonder.
I know there's definitely like hints at that.
Okay.
But anyways,
Cool.
but she said she basically gets to a point where she can like bend time and space around her, right?
Okay.
And she made some comment once that, again, probably something on paper would, you know, make sense, but anywhere in physical reality, you're like, okay, whatever, you know. But she was talking about like 2 + 2 = 4, right? And she was saying like, but in reality, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. That's just what you guys are using to represent something that you guys don't currently understand. Like that's your simple way of explaining something beyond your understanding right now.
And that's a cool story for a movie. That's very interesting.
It's a cool quote,
but as far as human beings have ever known and have shown, and all the projected showings of the future,
right,
two things, and you add 2 more things, you have 4 things, no matter where in existence you try to do that.
right.
I mean, even inside of a fucking black hole, 2 things and 2 things are 4 things.
Right.
It's just a mathematical constant.
But it's one of those. But if you take that kind of concept and you put it on a more broader scale of a lot of the things we have, I mean, dark energy and dark matter are probably the perfect examples of that, right? You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson's even said many times, he goes, dark energy and dark matter is just what we call them because we don't know what the fuck they are.
Yeah, he's like, literally, we don't know what the dark is. We don't know what the energy or the matter is. Those are just words we use
to describe
talk about
something
something we don't know anything about.
Right.
Yeah.
So all this movie was suggesting is, well, if we do that on a larger scale, who's to say we don't do that on a lower scale, you know, on a smaller scale also? But nobody's, you know, wanting to come out of, you know, think out of the box in those particular, you know, ways.
True. I think there are some constants in existence, though.
There'd have to be.
In reality, there's some constants. I think there's math, which is a constant. it's almost like the language of existence. It's how all living things could communicate with each other if they needed to. You can always relate to anything with math. I think that time is a constant, but not relative time, not your time. But I think there's actually a word for it that's escaping me. But there's the concept of time for everything. There is a flow of time.
Yes.
Atrophy, something like that. I don't know. The arrow of time, though, that exists, and that is a force that, in my opinion, I don't think you can fuck with. That's a constant. So, math and time, things like that, I think those are things that work anywhere, no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Because there has to be certain building blocks that the universe is using to create itself,
There
right?
does.
There has to be, like, something.
One of the biggest, I think, the agreeance is that the two big building blocks that we know of, and there might be more, but the two that I know that are pretty constant are, just as you mentioned, one of them, time, and the other one's gravity.
Time and gravity.
Time and gravity. Because everything in our universe, the only reason why it behaves the way it does is because of those two things.
And we even call our existence space-time.
Yeah.
Which is essentially space, gravity is essentially what we're trying to say there, and time.
Yeah.
But the arrow of time, not because there's two different kinds of times going on. There's your relative time, there's how you experience time, and where you go in the universe can totally change and affect how you experience time.
Yes.
That is very possible. But nothing affects the arrow of time.
No, time is always constant. It's always moving forward. Even gravity that can bend space-time, you can bend it to make a wave whatever you want, but it's still going to go forward.
It's still going to go forward.
Yeah.
There is a truth there. That's just something that existence does. Interesting.
Very interesting. And on that note...
Oh, no, is that it for
I
today?
think that might be it for today.
Oh, that was a good one, man.
That was good.
I had my mind blown a couple times.
Yeah.
I probably said some really stupid shit that didn't make any sense.
Well, one thing if people don't already understand about this podcast is we talk about a lot of shit we don't know anything about, but we do like talking about it.
Man, that was really interesting for me. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
I did too. I hope you enjoy all of our space talks because we do have quite a few of them on this podcast.
Man, we love to talk about space.
We do, man.
It's
Well,
fucking cool.
there's always new information coming out. Like today, it always opens the door for new shit, and especially with what Elon Musk and other space programs are doing right now to try to get to Mars and shit. Just like the election, I think we're going to be talking about it more and more in the future, just because of what's going on in the world.
Neil deGrasse Tyson 2020.
I would
Tyson for president.
I would love Tyson for
I'd
president.
vote for him. If
Vote
you're
for
listening
him
to
in a
this, run.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening today. Remember, you can add us on all those social media platforms. Remember, we do have a Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/HardlyMillennial. And any final thoughts, Matthew?
See you guys next time.
Bye. Bye-bye.